Grand Rising. Today is October 1st, Saturday, 2022, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 1443 on the ancient sun calendar. Empire State of Morocco, United States for America, Moorish National Republic Federal Government, Societas Republicae e Americanos, Moorish Divine and National Movement of the World, Northwest Amexem, Northwest Africa, North America, the North Gate, and the adjoining Americana Islands. Temple of the Moon and Sun, the true and de jure natural peoples, heirs of the land. Islam, I self, law, am master. Empire State of Morocco, universal sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine, affidavid. Termination for all corporate contracts. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. For the record, to be read into the record and letting the record show. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3 Moroccan Moorishe American Consular Court action. We are the sovereign living justice in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in propria solo, and in propria heredis. I am sovereign living justice Sharon and Peart Johnson. My chosen sovereign living appellation of nobility is shasha ande, and my sovereign living matrimonial appellation is Sharon and Martini. All are in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in propria solo, and in propria heredis. We are the sovereign, living, original, indigenous, natural, divine, Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. All Moors are the sovereign, living, universal, original, indigenous, natural, divine, de jure law and government on our ancient, holy, sovereign, ancestral, inherited lands at America. We are the ascendant spiritum returned alive. We are the solvent creditors to all nations at earth, and we are the rightful, lawful executors, trustees, ministers, claimants, heirs, and beneficiaries of our own vast estate. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the sovereign, living, original, indigenous, natural, divine, ancient Empire State for Morocco, and the sovereign, living, original, indigenous, natural, divine, ancient de jure Moorish National Republic Federal Government, the de jure Universal Moorish American Consulate, and the de jure Article 3 Moroccan Moorish American Consular Court. We are truth, we are peace, we are one nation, we are one state, we are one empire. We are l'amour, and we are one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. All exchanges in universal commerce shall be made in gold, silver, and other natural resources. The universal American Constitution for the United States predates all others and supersedes all others, and it is the supreme law of the land. I and all Moors are the sovereign living heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all commercial contracts, nunc pro tunc. All services are prepaid by the people, who are the sovereign, living, universal, original, indigenous, sovereign, natural, divine, Moorish National Republic Federal Government. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. Matthew 18:20, King James Version. I, Sharon and Peart Johnson, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in propria solo, and in propria heredis, do hereby terminate and abolish forever, nunc pro tunc, all United States Corporation Company, the United States Service Corporation, United States and all corporations, and their agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof, listed and unlisted, corporeal and incorporeal, fraudulent, fictitious, presumed contracts with Sharon and Peart Johnson in all capital letters, Sharon and Peart Johnson, capitis diminutio media or minima, and Sharon and Peart Johnson in monochrome black ink in capitis diminutio nolo, and all heirs and assigns, principals, agents, and derivatives thereof. Sharon Ann Johnson, Sharon Ann Johnson, and Sharon Ann Johnson. And those would be capitis, diminutio, minima, maxima, media, and nolo. And all heirs, assigns, principals, agents, and derivatives. Again, Sharon Ann Martini, Sharon Ann Martini, and Sharon Ann Martini, and all heirs, assigns, principals, agents, and derivatives thereof. All presumed United States company contracts, known and unknown, listed and unlisted, corporeal and incorporeal, fraudulently issued using the instruments known as Employee Identification Number, EIN, SSN, TRN, NI, NINO, NINO, to include Social Security number, and these are listed, and all agents and principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives fraudulently issued by the United States Social Security Administration, TRN, and all agents, assigns, principals, heirs, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by the Tax Authority of Jamaica. United Kingdom National Insurance Number, and all agents, principals, heirs, and assigns, derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by HM Revenue and Customs, HMRC, and all heirs, assigns, agents, principals, heirs, and derivatives thereof. All corporate contracts with any Social Security numbers, TRN, NINO, and the numbers are listed, and all heirs, assigns, principals in any version, and all agents, assigns, principals, heirs, derivatives thereof. All certificates of live birth copies for Sharon Ann Peart Johnson to include, numbers are listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, issued fraudulently by Her Majesty's Passport Office and UK Visas and Immigration Registrar General for England and Wales, and all heirs, assigns, principals, agents, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Apostille APO, listed, number listed here, fraudulently issued by Her Majesty's Principal Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, all credit reports, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by TransUnion Corporation, Experian Corporation, and Equifax Corporation, and all heirs, principals, assigns, agents, and derivatives thereof. All Internal Revenue Service Corporation tax forms, filings, and transactions, and or fraudulently issued by the United States Corporation, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All student identification cards, fraudulently to include, number listed, all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Portland Community College, all licenses and records of marriage, files listed here, all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by the Oregon Department of Human Resources, Health Division, Vital Records Unit, Multnomah County, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Domestic Relations Dissolution, fraudulently issued by the Circuit Court of the State of Oregon for Multnomah County, and all agents, heirs, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Certificate of Baptism, fraudulently issued by Q Road Methodist Church, Kilburn, and all agents, principals, heirs, and assigns, and derivatives thereof. Certificate of Citizenship, Jamaica, number listed, all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Passport, Immigration, and Passport Agency, Jamaica, and all heirs, agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All business licenses for Ladybird Designs, Africa Village Arts Limited, numbers listed, fraudulently issued by Office of the Secretary of State, Corporation Division, State of Oregon, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Also fraudulently issued by the Office of the Registrar of Companies, Companies Office of Jamaica, and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All National Insurance Scheme numbers and National Insurance numbers, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by National Insurance Scheme, Ministry of Labor and Social Security, tax registration, and all heirs, assigns, principals, agents, and derivatives thereof. tax registration numbers, fraudulently issued by Tax Administration Jamaica, and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All inland revenue, PAYE, notice of coding, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by HM Inspector of Taxes, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Driver's licenses and all transportation contracts fraudulently issued by, to include numbers listed and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by the State of Oregon Department of Motor Vehicles Corporation and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, and fraudulently issued by the Government of Jamaica Driver's License Agency, Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency, and that's United Kingdom, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. State identification, fraudulently issued by State of Oregon Department of Motor Vehicles, state identification, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by State of Illinois Department of Motor Vehicles, and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Employment authorization card, number listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by U.S. Department of Justice, Immigration and Naturalization Service, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. I-90 permanent resident card, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by U.S. Department of Justice, Immigration and Naturalization Service. I-90 application receipt, application numbers, and all agents, assigns, principals, heirs, derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by U.S. Department of Justice, Immigration and Naturalization Service, and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All checking accounts and saving accounts, all ATM and credit cards and debit cards fraudulently issued by all bank corporations, to include all numbers listed, and agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by all Bank of America Corporation, and all heirs, assigns, principals, agents, and derivatives thereof, and numbers listed fraudulently issued by National Commercial Bank, NCB Jamaica, and all heirs, agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, and account numbers or credit cards listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Citibank, AT&T Universal Card, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Accounts fraudulently and all agents, principals, heirs, and assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by Nationwide Building Society. Also accounts fraudulently issued by Wells Fargo, Barclays Bank, and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All public utilities, customer numbers, and premise numbers listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Customer numbers, premises numbers, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Jamaica Public Service Company Limited. Then customer number and all heirs, assigns, agents, principals, and derivatives thereof. Customer number listed here, premises number, and all agents, assigns, principals, heirs, and agents, derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by National Water Commission Jamaica, account number for flow, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Cable and Wireless Jamaica Limited, doing business as Flow, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All property taxes listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Tax Administration Jamaica and National Land Agency, valuation and assessments, and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All passports, to include United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland passport, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by HM Passport Office, United States passport, ending 412, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by the United States Passport Agency, United States Department of State, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. And then passport, Jamaican passport, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by the Passport, Immigration, and Customs Agency, Jamaica, and all heirs, agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All insurance corporation contracts issued fraudulently to include auto insurance contracts, policy number listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by Auto Smart Insurance and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Policy number MPC listed and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by Advantage General Insurance Company Limited and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All property insurance contracts, life insurance contracts, to include but not limited to. Fraudulently issued homeowners insurance listed, consequent on transaction, account numbers, fraudulently issued by Covenant Insurance Brokers and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Broker policy reference, British Caribbean Insurance Company Limited, and any agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, and any and all health insurance contracts. All allodial conveyances with fraudulently issued vehicle identification numbers. Fraudulently issued for Subaru Forester Turbo XT 2006 by Subaru USA and or Full Heavy Industries Limited and any and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Chassis number, VIN number for vehicle identification number fraudulently issued for 1990 Geoprism GSI by New United Motor Manufacturing Company and Inc. and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All conveyances and services are prepaid and are in the national trust of the people who are the universal, original, indigenous, sovereign, natural, divyne, Moorish, national republic, federal government at all times, not pro-tonque. All certificate of title under the Registration of Titles Act, various volume and folio numbers listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Certificate of title under the Registration of Titles Act, another one, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by Office of Titles, Registrar of Titles, National Land Agency, Jamaica, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All land and property are prepaid and are in the national trust of the people who are the sovereign, living, universal, original, indigenous, natural, divine, Moorish, national, republic, federal government, at all times, not pro-tonque. All customer reference forms and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Customer reference forms, CPR 10s, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Fraudulently issued by the Jamaica Constabulary Force and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All vehicle registration license and plates for Subaru 2006 Forester Turbo XT and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Vehicle registration plates for the Geoprism 1990 Geoprism GSI and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by Tax Administration Jamaica, and all agents, principal, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. Passenger registration titles for 2002 Lexus 4D300 and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, fraudulently issued by State of Oregon, Multnomah County, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All motor vehicle registration certificates and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by Tax Administration Jamaica, and all agents, principal, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, all motor vehicle certificate of titles, motor vehicle identification numbers, all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof, motor vehicle certificate vehicle identification number listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by National Motor Vehicle Registry, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All emission test report certificates and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by State of Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All National Health Service cards to include NHS numbers, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by the Middlesex Executive Council, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All certificates of fitness, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by Motor Vehicle Registration Department, Tax Administration, and Tax Administration Jamaica, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All ISBN numbers listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by R.R. Bowker, LLC, and all agents, principals, heirs, and assigns, and derivatives thereof. All copyright numbers listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by the United States Copyright Office, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All trademarks, registration numbers, serial numbers, soil of Jamaica, and all agents, principal, heirs, and assigns thereof. All registration numbers, serial numbers, trademarks, or who says art has to hang on your walls, hang some on your bum, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof fraudulently issued by United States Patent and Trademark Office, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All mortgage services to include mortgages, mortgage deeds, loans, leases, rents, leases, prepaid, presumed, or offered, fraudulently issued using or attempting to use the employee identification numbers, EIN, known as Social Security numbers, NINOs, TRNs, or bank credit and or debit cards associated with the SSN, TRN, NINOs listed, or bond citations, tickets, warrants, corporate cases, established fraudulently using the employee identification numbers, EIN, TRN, NINO, Social Security numbers, known as Social Security numbers listed above. All building permits to include, but not limited to, building permits listed, fraudulently issued by Parish Council's Office, St. Elizabeth Parish Council, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All third-party collection agency accounts fraudulently issued using the employee identification number, EIN, known as Social Security number, National Insurance number, NINO, tax registration number, TRN, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All corporations established with any employee identification numbers known as Social Security numbers, TRN, NINO, to include all of the numbers listed, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof listed under GMEI Utility Global Market Entity Identifier Utility, GMEI Business Entity Data Bed BV, DTCC, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and derivatives thereof. All are hereby terminated and rescinded nunc pro tunc. All fictitious, fraudulent, presumed United States Corporation Company and all agents, assigns, principals, and any and all derivatives thereof, corporate contracts that purportedly exist in the fraudulently issued corporate contracts, and all agents, assigns, principals, and any and all derivatives thereof for Sharon Ann Peart Johnson, Sharon Ann Johnson, Sharon Ann Martini, and any and all heirs, assigns, principals, agents, and thereof are rescinded. I am not a United States citizen, nor a citizen of the United States of America. I am not a citizen of any corporation, nor a citizen at all. I, Sharon Ann Peart Johnson, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in propria heredis, am a flesh and blood, sovereign, living, original, indigenous, natural, divine, sentient Moabite woman. I am neither private nor civilian. I and all Moors are the sovereign, living, universal, original, indigenous, natural, divine authority at America, and I possess lawful, national, international, and universal titles, charters, trusts, and identification documents that are sovereign, original, indigenous, de jure, Moorish National Republic, federal government titles, charters, trusts, and identification documents. All lawful, national, international, and universal titles, charters, trusts, and identification documents are the property of the universal, original, indigenous, sovereign, natural, divine, de jure, Moorish National Republic, federal government titles. All other foreign corporate contracts, trusts, and documents are not withstanding. Lawful Moorish American writs, laws, and affidavits are on the public record, are unrebutted, and stand as law. I hereby claim, proclaim, and fully access and declare my full, rightful, lawful estate, which is all land, all natural resources, all property manifestations, and all universal commerce, nunc pro tunc. No United States corporation, company, citizen, corporation, nor United States citizen, nor their agents, principals, heirs, or assigns, has personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, nor territorial jurisdiction over me, nor over any Moors. I and all Moors are part and parcel of said government. Nothing in this lawful document, nor in any actions by me or any Moorish American national, shall be construed as consent to any jurisdiction that is not the jurisdiction of my ancestral inherited estate. All sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, divine Moorish American autographs affirming this, and all sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient empire state of Morocco, and the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government documents are on the public record at America. Ancient Morocco, Northwest America, Northwest Africa, the North Gate, Turtle Island, Gaia, Midgard, Earth. Kronos, time immemorial, into perpetuity. Ego sum Justice Vizier Minister Sharon Ann Peart Johnson. In capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredis. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. This sovereign living, Article 3, Moorish American, Moroccan court action is now adjourned.